Hey everybody, Stephen Joy here. I'm trying something different. I'm drawing a map right now, and I'm doing a voiceover instead of just staring at my hands. I thought this might be a little more interesting. So today, my topic is 5 things to consider first before starting a new tabletop RPG game. So, tabletop RPG game. It's kind of redundant, isn't it? Anyway, the first thing to consider is the mechanics. Now, a thing that a lot of people do when they're starting out a new campaign world, they already have the mechanics chosen. And they try and fit their campaign world around those rules. And I do think this is a little bit of a mistake. Not so much for a beginner, but if you've been playing games for a while, you're probably familiar with quite a few different rule sets. At least I hope you are. And I think that it's more advantageous to come up with a campaign idea first and then find the rules that suit it the best. The reason for this is that way your campaign world has the most flexibility. You could go grim dark, you could go, science fiction, you could go, an OSR school setting, whatever you might envision, so that you're not roped into a particular setting by the rule set. So I think it's better to come up with the idea of what you want to play first, the campaign world, and then find your rules. There are a lot of great free rule sets out there. You can, of course, purchase rule sets. There definitely, I think that no matter whatever you come up with, you'll be able to find something that's satisfactory for the campaign world that you envision. And not every rule set is going to be appropriate for the campaign that you want. That's my 2 cents anyway. So the very first thing I would consider is the mechanics. Do I want my world to conform to the mechanics, or do I want the mechanics to conform to my world? So the next thing to consider is the story. What kind of a story do you want to tell? And a story basically is a sequence of events. So you want a sequence of events to unfold over the course of your campaign. And that's going to basically be the story that you're telling. And you don't need to have a very, a very tight version of this story, but just a rough idea is a good thing. Who the big bad guys are, what sort of dangers are lurking around the world, what sort of things could be potentially perilous for the players. And so I'm just gonna mention one thing. This is for I'm giving tips for how to start a new campaign world. But I'd like to say that these also work if you're going to start in a new part of a campaign world. I think all these rules still apply. This is certainly when I'm starting in a new part of my campaign world, this is how I look at it. I'll change out the rule sets if I need to. I'll even change the big bad. I mean, why would one part of the world hear about the same big bad as another part of the world? So I can really change things around just by moving my campaign location to a different part of the world. So the next thing to look at is aesthetics. And I think aesthetics are very much overlooked. A lot of role players sort of rely on the rule set to provide the aesthetics. So and that's one of the reasons that the art inside a rule set is so important, because it provides the aesthetics. And sort of after that, the aesthetics go to the mind's eye, or perhaps you bring a few pictures to the game. And that would be my suggestion. My suggestion is to pay particular attention to the aesthetics. I already did a video on using AI to generate art if you're not an artist. It's very easy to do. But you can also look around the internet and find art that other people have created and use it and just incorporate it into your world. And that'll give your players a real sense of what they are seeing, what they should be seeing, just so that everybody's on the same page and they're sort of envisioning sort of very similar things. One thing to keep in mind is that there's nothing prohibiting you from using copyrighted artwork in your own home campaign. The only time that it becomes an issue, or AI art for that matter, is if you're going to publish it, or if you're going to you know, give it away to the public, because you don't have a right to the artist's art in that way. So, that's another aspect to consider. But I do think that it's really important to supply artwork to the players so they have some idea, and maps and so forth too. It really helps ground the players in the world, and really lets them feel like they're a part of it, and helps their imagination. And people's imaginations work in different ways. Some people find it very easy to imagine settings and pictures and so forth, and some people find it very difficult. I only just found out a few days ago that people hold images in their mind, and that they can see things. So if, for example, you say apple, imagine a red apple, people can imagine a red apple. Oddly enough, as an artist, I can't do that, or at least not very well, with a tremendous amount of difficulty, which is kind of peculiar, especially for an artist. But that is the case. A lot of people are like that. And so providing them with art to actually see, visualizations, may help them a lot. Otherwise, they may not be seeing much. And, well, other players are seeing a great deal. All right. The next one is technology. And this one, I think, doesn't get enough care given to it. So there's two aspects. It's the technology that you allow at your game and the technology you use for your game. So from that perspective, I mean, even a table is technology. So if you're going to use a pen and paper, and you're going to draw everything out and type everything up and put it in a binder, sort of going really old school, that's one way to play. And you'll need everybody to show up at the table and have times that they can play. It can be quite difficult to organize all that. In the past, it was a lot easier, but today it seems like people are a lot busier than they used to be, and so it seems like it's very difficult to get people to a table like that. So another aspect is using computers and playing across the internet on a virtual tabletop, for example. And this is a great way to play, but it does, in my opinion, change the feel of the game tremendously. I've tried it a few times. I'm not a big fan. I really love playing at a table. And I don't know. I can't tell whether that's just preference, my personal preference, because that's the way I'm used to playing, or if that's the way I've played in the past, or if it's actually something about the virtual tabletop that I don't like. I know I've noticed it's a lot harder to communicate over the internet. So in face-to-face communications across the table, when I'm interacting with players and so forth, it's a lot easier for me to understand what they're saying and what they're doing. I love getting up and jumping around and waving my hands around and so forth. But it's a lot more difficult to do that on a virtual tabletop. So I do find the virtual tabletop very much limits my non-verbal communication. And if that's a thing that doesn't bother you, then virtual tabletop might be a great way to go. But you have to decide which way you want to go, and you have to decide what kind of technology you want to do. Do you want to allow cell phones and so forth at the table? These can be really distracting. In my video about the flow state, I was talking about the benefits of leaving those sorts of things behind. However, you might decide that you want to use them at the table, tablets or so forth, or maybe use a TV or a screen for a virtual tabletop, and everybody can use that around. And you might find it handy to use technology. I think it all just depends on your players and whether they can pay attention to the game, or whether they're going to go off and play Angry Birds as soon as something gets a little bit slow. Anyway, that's a consideration. And then the fifth consideration is theme. So once you've figured out, sort of an idea of what the campaign should be, you have an idea of the mechanics, and you have an idea of the story, you also want to consider, basically at the same time, as theme. What kind of a theme do you want? Is it going to be a pirate's theme? Is it going to be a spaceship theme? Is it going to be a you know, a Conan the Barbarian kind of theme? Are you going to have a romantic theme? There are any number of themes that you can use, but I think it's very important to stick to the same theme. So you very much need to define exactly what your theme is going to be so that you can reinforce that theme as often as possible while the players are playing. And that way it'll keep everybody focused on the game itself, instead of getting sidetracked. Because if you change your focus suddenly in the middle of a game, it can change the entire feel of a game. And not to mention, people when they're designing their characters and so forth, they will design their characters around the theme, so it suits the theme best. And if your theme's always changing and moving around and has no cohesion, it can be very difficult for players. I think that if at some point as a DM you want to change your theme, it's probably better to just start a new campaign, either in the same world in a different part of the world, or just start all again from scratch and change your theme. Once the theme gets tired, you can, it's a good idea to do that, rather than trying to change the theme, because the theme really changes the entire feeling of the world, in my opinion. Anyway, that's it. That's it for this video. It's the 5 things to consider before starting your next tabletop RPG. Thanks for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you made it this far. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.